sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corners, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True crime jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys are doing very well.
And waiting for the truth.
I'm going to turn that down so we can go ahead and do our thing. All right. So, hold on just a second. All right. So I want to share first. Okay, so I want to be talking about today. I want to be talking about the fact that Lori Vallow with 5, husbands, kind of like Christopher Proudfoot with 5 wives, right? So Lori Vallow with this laundry list of husbands, of course, every one of them was the problem. She herself was not the problem. Only the men that she married had some kind of issue, correct? All right. So Lori was back in the courtroom yesterday, January the 10th, 2025. This was for a status conference. Excuse me. This is for a status conference, and she is literally representing herself. If you guys have not heard about this, it was worse than I even imagined that it would be. Like when the judge allowed that, when the judge said, sure, you're competent, you can represent yourself, yada, yada, I was horrified, right? And one of the reasons for my horror is her son, Colby, his wife, his children. When does their nightmare end? This woman is so completely filled with narcissism that she simply doesn't care who she is hurting, including her own babies. But she now she's in a situation. This particular trial is happening in Arizona, and the charges against her is it's a conspiracy charge. But don't forget, Charlie Edelson, his conviction is conspiracy to commit murder, the death of his brother-in-law, his ex-brother-in-law, Dan Markel. If you are charged with conspiracy to commit murder, it's exactly the same thing as being charged with murder. There's no difference. It just means that you wanted someone to die, and the person who actually was the manner of death, the person that fired the firearm, the person that did the poison, that yes, they too committed murder, but they were acting upon your direction. And so you get murdered too. You don't get off scot-free just because you said, oh, wait, I didn't have the gun in my hand. Doesn't make any difference. If you wish for another person to be dead, and then you set about a plan that will end knowingly in their death, you're totally responsible. You are guilty of murder, just like the one that had pulled the trigger, so to speak. So she's back in the courtroom and they had a status conference. Her charges are conspiracy to commit murder. And this is the murder of Charles Vallow, and the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband, and that is Brandon Boudreaux. So these are enormous charges. Like this is not a little throwaway case after she has been convicted of murdering her own babies. So she and Chad Daybell, this creepy, strange dude who thought he was God, that is a sincere dramatization of the whole mess that it was, but it's a fair and accurate reflection. He believed himself to be prophet in the Mormon religion. So he's ordering people to do things and he's manipulating people. And it was a nightmare, basically. So Lori has already been found guilty of the murder of her daughter, Tylee Ryan, her biological child, and then the murder of a 7-year-old little boy, JJ Vallow, who is her adopted son. It was her husband's biological nephew or great nephew. And so all of this, they believe Tylee was murdered September the 9th, 2019. And JJ was murdered September 23rd, 2019. And then fast forward, Christopher Proudfoot, are you listening, buddy? I'm just going to make it real simple for you. Crystal clear, Christopher, that on June the 9th, 2020, the Rexburg police, they were able to do a geofencing net and realized that Chad Daybell and Lori's brother were standing beside where these two kids were buried. So Christopher, that's how they got caught, big guy. You're next. You're going down unless you open that mouth of yours and tell the truth about that woman you're married to. Because Lori Vallow is a perfectly clear, crystal clear example of what can go wrong when a man is being manipulated by a woman. So you better listen up, buddy, if you hope to ever get out of prison and see the light of day. So again, Lori and Chad were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they had some really strange beliefs. There was apocalyptic visions and just crazy. The whole thing was just a quagmire of insanity and personality disorder. It's basically the worst thing that can happen to a human being, right? So Chad Daybell was actually even he got caught there at the location, the site of Tylee Ryan's destruction and JJ Vallow's burial. And so his charges were destruction of evidence or concealment of evidence. And then, Lori was charged with first-degree murder, right? Chad was charged with first-degree murder too, but his had the additional level of concealing or destruction of evidence, whereas Lori was out shopping that day. She didn't worry, we don't think, about going and digging a hole in the ground for her baby boy. She wasn't there with kerosene lighting the body of her baby girl on fire. So she didn't get the charges of destruction of evidence. Yeah, their bodies were evidence that a crime was committed. So where does that take us? Well, so when I learned that the judge was going to allow Lori Vallow to represent herself, I was horrified because I thought of Colby Ryan, Lori Vallow's oldest son and only surviving child that she has. So I watched the hearing, but then I was anxious. Well, shoot, hold on, I've lost something. Where is it? Did I not go up far? Okay, there it is. Sorry about that. I found it. Okay. So I listened to Lawyer I watched the hearing, and then after I watched the hearing, and I was so horrified and disgusted. This woman is an absolute abomination, in my opinion. Sincerely, I cannot find one redeeming quality about this girl at all. Ever. It seems like there are stories from her cousin, stories from her childhood. Even as a teen, she was a horrible person. As a teenager, she was doing horrible things like running over and killing cats. Like taking a little, young teen, like 13 years old, and teaching her that she needed to shave her girly parts, but be sure to leave a little hair there. Otherwise, men won't want to F you. She is a teenager who's teaching a 13-year-old this nauseating concept. So I honestly don't see that there's a case with Lori Vallow where everything was going great. She's this good mom. She's normal. She's healthy. She's helping the children grow and be the best humans that they can be. And then she gets a brain tumor and things go off the rails. Or she gets, a head injury, or she gets sick. I don't see any evidence for any of that. I just see a woman that from the time she was a teenager, if these stories about her childhood are accurate, I see a young woman who from the time she was a teenager through her young adulthood and now as an old lady, she's a perhaps evil, if you believe in that type of statement. Perhaps she's evil if that is real, but perhaps it's just a good old-fashioned case of she's a bad person and she does not care who she harms, including her two babies. Now she's going to hurt Colby again. And this man has been through enough. He didn't need that. He doesn't need this crap in his life. He needs insulation away from her so that he can rebuild and be a good dad to his own children and have a life that things are orderly and strengthening, something with foundation. And yet here this crazy, evil, destructive, violent, insane bully has been given a damn platform to continue her crap.
Inmate Legal Services works. Did you receive the state's response yet?
I did receive it yesterday, but okay. I was hoping that I could put my response on the record today, my reply.
That's fine. Go ahead.
By the way, the first thing I'll notice is she said, I did receive it. She seems very confident in how she speaks. And she also says, I want to give my response orally today. And then she calls it a reply, which is technically correct and the proper thing to call it. She files the initial document, the state responds, and then she replies to that response. Learning some terminology here.
Okay, there's a problem here, Mr. Tragos. She's not a law student. She is what is perhaps maybe a real life monster. That's the problem with this. And he's an attorney, right? So I'm guessing here, I could be wrong, but he seems to be a bit amused by Lori. And I felt like, wait a minute. Wait a second. There's no amusement here. This woman savaged her children. I mean, like Lord of the Flies kind of slaughter. God only knows what she did to 3 of her husbands. For sure, one of them was outright slaughtered. And there's a very high likelihood that Tylee's biological father, that he was also savaged by this monster. There's nothing amusing about this judge giving her a platform to continue to terrorize the one living child that she has left.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I get my glasses.
Oh.
She's like, I got to get my glasses.
Okay. I want you guys to remember, think back. Do you remember? Oh, and I need my lip gloss. I want to get my purse because I need my lip gloss. And what did the law enforcement, how did the law enforcement react? The men were charmed by her need for lip gloss. Remember that? At the moment that those cops were charmed by her goofy little, oh, I need my lip gloss, the plans were already in place for Tylee Ryan to be slaughtered. I'm accurate about this. This woman is not cute. She is manipulative. She is not being charming by talking, let me get my glasses, using her little baby girl voice. This is for the benefit of men so that they will think, oh, wow, she is, she's pretty, she's got a good figure, and she's a little bit kind of cute, like a little girl. This is so cute. No, it's not cute, Mr. Tragos. This is a living nightmare for Colby. It's a living nightmare for Colby. It's a living nightmare for JJ's grandma and grandpa. It's a living nightmare for the family members that are left watching this debacle. This is not cute. She was not being how do I say this? She wasn't being ditzy and cutesy. She is an evil monster. She allowed her daughter to be cut up into pieces and gasoline poured on her and lit on fire. She may be the one who put the plastic bag on top of JJ's head. You honestly believe that her saying, "Let me get my glasses. I need to get my glasses. Sorry, guys. Let me get my glasses. You know how I am. I'm blind." It's not cute. It's not amusing. This is what you call a monster, a real life monster. She has the ability to look you in the face and say, "I love you. You're the greatest man that ever lived," as she is putting a knife into your gut. And she will never quit smiling as that knife goes into your stomach.
Learning some terminology here.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I get my glasses.
She's like, "I got to get my glasses." People are, I can't wait to read the comments on her disposition and how she is in this hearing and what the jury is going to think when they see her making these arguments in front of them. Right now, not in front of a jury.
Well, the men are
Pre-trial.
going to think
She says there's like
cute,
70 days until her
apparently.
trial. So all this stuff is just in front of a judge and these cameras.
Do you want me to stand, Your Honor, or can I just sit here?
You can sit there.
So the state has claimed in their response that these documents are not material in the case, and this defense is entitled to this specific evidence for the proposition that this evidence can be used to impeach the thoroughness and good faith of the police investigation and the intent of the prosecution. That's Kyles versus Whitley, 514 U.S. The acid test.
Now, you will notice that sitting to the left of her, you can kind of see the woman's hand on the computer right there. She has an attorney. The court-appointed attorney is sitting beside her and is there to work as her, I don't know, should we say employee? Her advisor, if you will. So I'm going to take a guess here that what Lori Vallow is reading was actually created by the attorney, not Lori. Make no mistake about it. If Lori has to put in any work, her personality, she would say, "Screw it. I'll just say I'm guilty." This is about her and the cameras, y'all. She didn't give a damn about actually learning the law. This was done by the attorney. She is playing to you. She is playing to Peter Tragos. She is playing to the YouTube community. She is playing to Colby. She is playing to... This is her narcissistic personality disorder that is empty, and she needs some narcissistic supply. And this judge just gave her a gold mine of narcissistic supply. It's an obscenity.
So she is citing case law, explaining that why she would be entitled to this evidence, whether it's probative or impeaching or shows a lack of a thorough investigation, which are all things we've seen defense teams attack in prosecutions and investigators and law enforcement in other cases. We'll get to exactly what she's talking about and what she wants a little later in the video.
Of this prosecution is not a matter of determining if the defendant is guilty of the crimes that the defendant is charged, but rather, was any crime even committed? And where is this evidence? This defense has yet to find any evidence of a conspiracy in the 100,939 pages that have been turned over by the state.
Okay, you know what, Lori? No one's impressed with the 100,000 pages. Like, no one is impressed by that. What everyone is impressed by is your brutality. That's what everybody's impressed by. Everybody's impressed by the brutality and the cluelessness that you possess, that you tell yourself because your dead children are in heaven, that they're fine. They're just fine and they're happy. And now I get to have crazy, freaky monkey sex with my man, Chad Stir. She says there's no evidence of a conspiracy. Really? You have a serious timeline problem with the morning that Charles Vallow was shot to death. You've got a real problem with the timeline. You've also managed to kill the two witnesses that were there. Not cute, not fun. She's not a perky little sorority girl. She is a savage, brutal murderer without an ounce of empathy anywhere within her body. Every decision this woman makes is made for attention.
So she's about to make a very good argument that just because you turn over 100,000 documents or 100,000 pages doesn't mean you've turned over everything, number one. Doesn't mean you've turned over everything that's important. Doesn't mean you've turned over everything that the defendant is entitled to. Those are all very good arguments that she's about to make. The problem in her verbiage is she says, I, or we, the defense, has looked through these 100,000 pages and we see no evidence of a crime and no evidence of a conspiracy. It's like, well, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
The state does not get to say, like they did in their last motion to us, in their last answer, to say, oh, we gave you over 100,000 pages, so that ought to keep you busy. That's not how it works. These are serious charges, and these are serious consequences for these charges. In determining the actuality of a crime, the state is required to meet, in reality, not in theory, a standard of culpability that is defined by law as a crime. The state is required to meet the challenge of defense reasonably without bias, conflict, prejudice, or speculation. So the defense, we keep filing motions for discovery since we don't know if it's some kind of strategy of the state that they're holding back this actual evidence of conspiracy in hopes that the defendant won't have time to prepare a proper defense against the evidence that comes forward at the last minute. This court has denied every motion the defense has filed to acquire this evidence. The state has claimed in their response to the defense's motion that the defense's request is overbroad and wide sweeping. Is this
you hear the drama in her voice, like as she just basically saying mundane words, right? She's not really discussing something that is impactful, but it's like she's a junior high school mean girl who's overemphasizing, her crap that feels good to her. That she is presenting herself not as an attorney, she's presenting herself as a victim. She's presenting herself as a perpetual, never-ending victim. And right now, the person victimizing her is, I suppose, the state of Arizona, correct? But that tone that she has, listen to her. It sounds like a kid who's arguing back at her parents, stomping her foot. But I want to go. All the other girls are going. It's not fair that you won't let me go. Oh, I cannot impress on you enough how frightening of a personality this woman is. It does not matter whether she's so cute as she asked for her lip gloss. It doesn't matter if she uses her little girl sing song, gotta get my glasses. I ask you, what self-respecting woman would talk like that anyway at her age? It's a joke. And yet, seems to me the men fall for it. The men watch her and they think, oh, she's so cute. She's so amusing. I would promise you, there's one man out there who does not believe this is cute or adorable or, oh, gee, golly whiz, look how smart this little blonde is. There's one man out there who's not experiencing that. You know who that is? That's Colby Ryan. The man who his life has been erased by this monster. It's nothing cute about this. It's a nightmare.
The defense left to pinpoint where this evidence is and try to find it? No, that is not the law. The state is required by law to give the defense evidence of the crime they are being charged with. This is the purpose of the.
So a couple things she said there. Basically, it sounds like, the judge keeps denying our request. You got the judge and the state and the law enforcement all against her, working against her. Are they is this just a theory, a tactic of the state to delay and not turn everything over till the last minute so that she can't take the time to defend herself and respond? Again, arguments we've heard in prior cases as well. I don't really know what I was expecting, if I'm being honest, of how she would act and defend herself and speak and what her kind of style would be.
Well, I'm gonna make a guess here. I'm just gonna make a guess. I think that most people that are, follow true crime, they watch the Daybell case, Vallow Daybell case. I honestly believe that most of us thought that she would at the very least act like an adult, right? I think everybody believed that if she was going to take on this role as attorney, that she's going to defend herself in a court of law. I think most of us thought she would at least be aware that she's in a courtroom, that she would have that decorum. And I don't know why the hell I thought that. Okay, I'm going to own it. I was wrong, and I must have been out of my mind to even think that was a possibility. And the reason I say that, now that I've watched this, do you remember, when Mark Means was representing her? Oh my God, Mark Means fell for her crap, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I rather think he was probably grinning and giggling about how cute she was too. You remember that day when she came into the courtroom? Now, Colby Ryan has addressed that day, that event, when she first came into the courtroom. He turned and looked at Chad Daybell, and he said that he had in his mind, he was trying to judge like how fast it would take him to jump over the benches to get to Daybell. Could he get to Chad Daybell fast enough that he could actually start beating him before the sheriff's department would be on top of him, right? So he's in his mind, he just wants to kill Chad Daybell. In his mind, he's just thinking, this is the guy who savaged my little brother, my little sister. This is the guy that savaged my father. He called Charles Vallow his father. This was it almost makes me want to cry thinking about, and anybody that's ever been a victim of crime, you understand this empathy that you have for others. And so what Colby has experienced is like, it's unthinkable. It's unimaginable that your entire family gets wiped out, not through a car accident or a plane crash, but because your own mother did this. He has since come out and talked about how there were times when, or maybe it was his wife, that one of them came out and talked about how there were times in their life where Lori Vallow acted like a jealous girlfriend toward Colby. So she is one of these women that she learned probably through sexual abuse. There was probably, she probably experienced early sexual activity by someone that taught her that she had this control that she could use over men. And that may have been the way she got a lot of her needs met, through her life, because she's never accomplished anything. She's a nothing, y'all. She's never accomplished anything. She's not educated. She's not done any of those things, which is fine. There's plenty of great, wonderful, fine people that did not go that route. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I mean is she presents herself. She believes that she should be treated as a full-blown licensed attorney. But in truth, she's never done anything that would even get her close to even being able to pass the licensing test. So she lives in a delusional state where she's special and she's better than everybody, and that she's the cutest little thing in shoe leather. And all she's got to do is be all cutesy, little girly with a little sexual edge. And then men are just going to melt and say, oh my God, she's so cute. Let me help her. And do you remember the day she came into the courtroom and had that bright pink Kool-Aid lipstick on her cheeks and her lips? And she goes like, kind of like toe walking, bebopping across the courtroom. And you could almost see in your mind, you could see her walking like that across the school commons as a junior high school little girl, chewing bubble gum with lipstick on her lips. I mean, she's stuck at about 13, 14 years old. She's stuck there, but she has the benefit of understanding sexual power and prowess. And so she comes off in this, oh, I'm so needy and I'm just this innocent little girl and I need a big, strong man like you to protect me. And I'll even talk like a little girl too. Let me get my glasses. I need to find my glasses. I'm sorry, Judge. I'm so sorry. Who else did that? You remember? Nicole Kessinger. Remember that? That was creepy as hell. Her answering the phone in a voice of what sounded like a 7-year-old child. That was some creepy stuff. Yeah. You're looking at exactly the same thing right here. And women watch this and we're just disgusted because we recognize that it's contrived. It's not real. And very likely it's the product of early abuse. But men seem to react to it. Look at what happened with the police officers. Oh, and he got my lip gloss. I want my lip gloss back. It's brand new. And I need my purse because I need my lip gloss. Remember that? You remember how horrified we all were watching Charles Vallow beg and plead for help from law enforcement. You guys remember that? This is very, very worrisome about the direction that this thing is going to go. And the person who is going to be hurt is going to be her child, Colby Ryan. If this woman was cute and smart and ditzy, there ain't no way in hell she would do anything to harm her one remaining child. If she were under the influence and the control of Chad Daybell, she would not be taking this opportunity to stick yet another knife into the back of her son, Colby. She would not. This woman was not influenced by Chad Daybell. This woman is the catalyst for what made Chad Daybell go crazy. Had this woman never gone into Chad Daybell's life, I don't think any of that would have ever happened, the things that he did. She is the catalyst. She is the poison. We've got those stories about her when she was a child or a young teenager, basically taking her young cousins and introducing them to abuse, to sexual harassment and abuse. Yes, fun to ski. January 31st, 2019, that heartbreaking video where Charles Vallow is pleading for someone to help him and his wife. He wasn't angry with her. He was saying she's not okay. She's crazy. I don't understand why nobody will help. Melanie Gibb, I hold her personally responsible for this so-called mental health evaluation. I don't believe it even happened. I don't believe it even took place. I think Melanie Gibb should be arrested and charged every bit as much as Lori. I believe that in my heart. And I got some ideas about Jason Mao. Big ideas, right, Kresha? Right? The people that dug into this beyond the simple trials, beyond the simple charges, the people that know the deep history, the family issues, there's a problem out there in LDS land. LDS land has got something sinister in the top echelons of power. There's a serious problem. Look, right now I'm doing this deep dive on MK Ultra, right? And of course, don't get me wrong here, okay? I understand that when we hear MK Ultra, we kind of think about like Hollywood movies, kind of scary, woo kind of stuff. You don't understand something. MK Ultra is real. It's not a conspiracy. There is lots of evidence now through the years. The original evidence came out in the United States Congress. They were having hearings, and FOIA requests resulted in some financial documents where the funding for MK Ultra, not only in some of the universities here in the United States, but as well as to a college and a psychiatric treatment facility in Montreal. It was a real program. It was a real thing. And I would contend that it continues today. I have some ideas about the evidence that we see that it is still, I think Jeffrey Epstein, P. Diddy, I think they are operatives in the MK Ultra determination. Are they calling it MK Ultra? Well, no, because that's now like a notorious label, correct? But the de facto use of these principles and knowledge is still completely wide open and clear. There is no question. So with the original MK Ultra program, you know how they talked about Haight Ashbury in San Francisco, Charlie Manson, that period of time, right? It's so interesting because that was the heart of the MK Ultra program, where they were actually using LSD and mescaline. It's almost like they did, in fact, put this medication or this drug into the public's hands and then sat back to watch it happen. What was going down in early Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, was not happening anywhere else in the United States or the world. Nowhere else. Just in San Francisco is where it started. Lucille Ball went on record. She openly accused, how do I say this? She made a public accusation through police report that the government was trying to make citizens, locals, crazy. And she talked about how she went to this party. She had this stuff happen to her at this party, and that she could, how did she say it? She could hear. No, she could see. Here's what she wrote. She said she could see the sounds. She couldn't hear them. She said she was seeing the sounds. Wait, that sounds like an attempt to make sense of an LSD experience, a heavy hallucinogenic experience, right? So you had early on, and you had these brilliant artists that got caught up in the Haight-Ashbury early 60s stuff. I mean, you think Janis Joplin and the Doors. I mean, it was a pretty crazy, strange experience, and nobody else in the country knew what to make of it. I mean, there are psychiatrists and psychologists that did a lot of work talking about the phenomenon of how, what did they call it? They called it cultural breakdown in this very limited, border determined area. They just had this real small area in this one neighborhood where things just were like crazy world, like Alice in Wonderland kind of crap, but none of the rest of the country was experiencing it. It took about 5 years for Woodstock and for this antisocial cultural breakdown to sort of spread out. And then it popped up in a mysterious way in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. So what was the connection between San Francisco, the United States government, San Francisco, Montreal, and then the Netherlands? And there actually, in fact, is a connection. The guy running the program for the CIA, right? So it is, people kind of look at MK Ultra and they kind of think, oh, well, this is a horror story kind of phenomenon. No, actually, no, that was your government at work. Those were your tax dollars at work. And in some ways, you got to realize that it is possible, probable, people have done it, that what would be otherwise good people who would make good choices and good decisions, that with a little bit of psychotropic chemical and the power of suggestion or trauma, you can absolutely get people to change their behavior without them really even recognizing that they're doing it. And that I said, MK Ultra stuff. First, we had Epstein with the acts of humiliation, right? That was kind of his big thing, acts of humiliation, and recording these people, these government officials, these big money financiers that were at the island. And then we popped out with P. Diddy, who was doing exactly. I'm about to cough. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get over a cold, or I'm building up to a cold. And then you ended up with P. Diddy, whose MO was exactly the same as Epstein, except his target was Hollywood and then the music industry. And between these two monsters, you had every concept of potential power completely under your thumb. If you could get damning information or trauma sufficient to control the person in politics, in financial power, the wealthiest of the wealthy, and fame, Hollywood, and music, recording artist, then you are puppet master. If these people are under your control, you're puppet master, correct? So I'm beginning now to wonder, not think, but wonder. I'm beginning to wonder if this P. Diddy, MK Ultra, I mean, you think about this, Epstein, who basically unveiled that one of the princes of England is a pedophile, right? We're pretty well have been provided the evidence of that. The victim has come out and told her tale of what happened to her when she was a child. We got the information we need to know, right? We know about what Justin Bieber went through. We know what Michael Jackson went through as a young kid, only to potentially have become a perpetrator as he's older, because he never related with adults. He always related with kids. So I've got some suspicions that maybe there's a connection between the CIA, DOJ kind of stuff, and then the ability to control these otherwise powerful people in the world. And there is apparently the same kind of structure issues taking place in England. There's the same kind of problem that happened in not Germany, but Italy. Sorry, in Italy. So is this how these globalists or these very powerful people, is this how they've been able to turn the world upside down so effectively and efficiently? Because they had this network where they could traumatize a person and or blackmail them while they are under the influence of a psychotropic chemical. And then once they're no longer under that chemical and they see the facts, the evidence, then they're willing to do whatever they're asked to do politically or business wise, because the only thing worse than losing your principles in business or government, the only thing worse would be, if photographs or videos came out, either through humiliation and shame, your wife or husband would divorce you, or you might even be facing jail time. That's a really easy way to take a man who grew up in the church, Southern Baptist, grew up in the church like Mike Johnson, and was there every time the doors were open, whose entire public persona is connected to the church for both he and his family, his kids and his wife. And then he takes a meeting, a little 20-minute meeting with Paul Ryan in the Capitol. And when he comes out, he looks like he's seen a ghost. He's literally walking with his arms crossed in front of him like he's protecting himself. And then the next act that he takes as Speaker of the House is to vote for a bill that would make abortion up to 9 months of gestation legal in every state. How does someone do that? Look, I know Mike Johnson. He's from the same area, like the same small area where I grew up, like my hometown, my grandparents, where our family land is, all that. He's near there. My school that I went to played football against their school. It was only like 20, 25 miles down the road. This is a guy that, as he's working his way up and he's becoming more political, everybody knew him and recognized him. And he's all about the church. That's it. When he announced running, he announced it in his church. And he takes one 30-minute meeting with Paul Ryan, just one. And when he comes out, his arms are wrapped around his torso, and he goes on to not only bring to the floor for a vote this pork-laden omnibus bill, but within the bill is a federal statement law that abortion up to birth would be legal. He voted for it, yes. How do you do that? So there's something really strange. So back on topic. Where am I on time? 1 hour. Okay, so back on topic. Hold on. I don't want to keep using. Okay, here we are. Share. So let's watch this clown show. It's only 15 minutes, right? So let's watch
Whether or not it's appropriate.
with Lori Vallow, the clown in the center ring. She's a clown. She's not cute. She's not sweet. She's not smart. She is a savage who is ravenous for attention. She is ravenous for attention. And the more attention she gets, the more brutal, violent, and frightening she will become.
To change the name or do a formerly known as on the case. Does the state have a position on that?
I think I'm okay with changing it as long as we still leave the AKs. She was investigated, and obviously the first case, she was not Ms.
Right.
Daybell at that time.
All right, I'm going to order that the caption of the case would
Look at
both cases.
They're talking about her
All right.
name being a problem because there's
Obviously, the
so
first case, she
many.
was not.
I'm sorry, excuse me. There's so many investigations of which she's a part, a focus, a target, right? Some of the little cutesy little stuff she thought she's going to get away with was sort of maybe trying to change legally how she's known. And so watch her body language here. Hold on. We can zoom in close to her. Hold on. I'm telling you guys, if you don't have a touchscreen computer, that should be on your Christmas list next year. They're awesome. Okay. So watch her body language as they talk about, do we need to do also known as Lori Vallow, also known as Lori Cox, Lori Vallow, also known as Lori Daybell, that kind of thing. Watch her body language. She's belittling it. She's laughing about it like the judge and the prosecution are so stupid. And yet this is the woman that murdered her little boy and her teenage beautiful daughter.
Ms.
Right.
Daybell at that time.
All right, I'm going to order that the caption of the case
Look at her.
would both cases be State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, formerly known as Lori Vallow.
Look at her.
Uh,
Oh my God.
There is a pending motion to produce. I'll ask the deputy county attorney. Your reply deadline, I think, would be due next Tuesday. You're going to be filing a response. I'm sorry.
Nut. Scary.
I
Scary
filed a
month.
response. If we're talking about I filed a motion for an extension. I actually filed that on Monday. I emailed it to your court.
You're right. I meant your reply will be due the 14th. Well, I might have to give you a little extra time because of the way inmate legal services works. Did you receive the state's response yet?
I did receive it yesterday, but I was
Okay.
hoping that I could put my response on the record today, my reply.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Look at her. She's
Ready?
so,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't stand it. Ugh. Disgusting human being.
Do you want me to stand, Your Honor, or can I just sit here?
I wish
You
they
can sit
had
there.
made you stand. you
So the
nut.
state has claimed in their response that these documents are not material in the case, and this defense is entitled to this specific evidence for the proposition that this evidence can be used to impeach the thoroughness and good faith of the police investigation and the intent of the prosecution. That's Kyles versus Whitley, 514 U.S. The acid test of this prosecution is not a matter of determining if the defendant is guilty of the crimes that the defendant is charged, but rather, was any crime even committed? And where is this evidence? This defense has yet to find any evidence of a conspiracy in the 100,939 pages that have been turned over by the state. The state does not get to say, like they did in their last motion to us, in their last answer, to say, oh, we gave you over 100,000 pages, so that ought to keep you busy. That's not how it works. These are.
Let me tell you how something else works, Lori. You're not an attorney. You're acting like you slept at a Holiday Inn last night, and you're play acting an attorney because that's what psychopathic narcissists do. This woman has no identity of her own. We talked about that with Chris Watts. Chris Watts even spoke of how he would just sit in the back of the room and be quiet until he would see how other people were acting, and then he would do what he thought he wanted them to do, or what they wanted him to do. Whatever woman Chris Watts was with, he was a different man. So sometimes he was overtly sexual, even maybe some S&M type dominant, submissive games, things like that. But with Shanann, he was the obedient, henpecked dad and husband, because that's what fit for her in her suburban life. But as soon as he got with Nicole Kessinger, she tapped into a different part of him, and he was only too happy to oblige, being sort of the very violent, aggressive lover engaging in odd and strange sexual practices. Two completely different kind of human beings, not even remotely close to one another. And yet Chris Watts he did them, but in the end, he was so overwhelmed by the stressors that it was putting on him that he was able, because he is a psychopath, a primary psychopath, because he's primary psychopath, he realized, look, I can't tolerate going from loving, adoring, committed father and husband to crazy, wild monkey sex, dominant male. I can't balance those two. It's too much. I don't have the acuity and the social foundation to do that. So I need to get rid of one of these women so I don't have to keep bouncing back and forth. And frankly, I'm bored with Shanann, and I don't want to be a dad anymore. I don't have any money. It costs way too much money to keep my pretty house. I just wish that I could get a do-over. So I'm just going to get rid of them. And that's going to free up some cash. I can go buy me a new Audi, be with my crazy monkey sex girlfriend, and then I'll live happily ever after. That's about the depth that Chris Watts has. And you're seeing exactly the same thing in Lori Vallow. She's simply adapting to whatever role she's in. Whomever it is that she is confronted with, that's who she is. So she's on the phone with Colby Ryan. She's playing the role of mommy. If she's with Chad Daybell, she's playing the role of sex-starved goddess. It's such an extreme level of personality disorder that it's really hard to relate to. Like with Sarah Boone, we can kind of relate, right? We kind of get some of what she was experiencing and what she was trying to do. This chick, no, there's no understanding. The reason there's no understanding is because she's no one. She's not one single person. She is simply a mirror. That whomever she's talking to, that's who she models herself after. So right now she's looking at the judge. She's in a courtroom and she's play acting. She is playing the role of a defense attorney. I guarantee you guys, she believes she's a defense attorney while she's there talking. She's just acting out a part every bit as much as if she was just on a stage of a community theater, hell, even in Hollywood, I don't know, playing opposite Johnny Depp for all I care. She's acting out a role. There is no real Lori Vallow. She doesn't exist. She's an empty shell of a human being. And without a person in front of her to tell her how it is she's supposed to be acting and behaving, she doesn't know what to do. That's why when she walked in that courtroom, she was kind of toe walking a little bit, kind of flirty, throwing her shoulders around, had that bizarre Kool-Aid, makeup on, because she went back to the age of her primary trauma. She was around 9 or 10 years old, perhaps. She didn't know who she was or how she was to behave until she's sitting beside Mark Means, because he now gives her substance to reflect. And what did she reflect? Mark Means was absolutely convinced that this beautiful, voluptuous woman with the lion's mane of locks and hair, that this woman had to have been completely insane and out of her mind to have murdered her children and her husbands, because she doesn't look crazy. She's not all ugly and homeless and dirty. She's a very beautiful, very attractive woman. So she couldn't possibly be sane. That's what he was convinced that she was. And so how did she act? She acted like she was completely nuts. Now she's in a courtroom with a judge speaking to her with respect, and she's completely lost sight of the fact that she is in fact the defendant. She's even talking about herself in third person. This is Colby Ryan. If you find this, first of all, please know your wife, your children, you guys are in my prayers, along with Kresha and her family every single night. And number two, I would not watch a moment of this, Colby, because this is going to be very difficult because of the way she is not. There will not be an ounce of compassion within her. She will not be contrite. This is going, I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to be narcissistic supply for this cruel, cold-blooded murderer. I'm not going to do that.
Serious charges, and these are serious consequences for these charges. In determining the actuality of a crime, the state is required to meet, in reality, not in theory, a standard of culpability that is defined by law as a crime. The state is required to meet the challenge of defense reasonably without bias, conflict, prejudice, or speculation. So the defense, we keep filing motions for discovery since we don't know if it's some kind of strategy of the state that they're holding back this actual evidence of conspiracy in hopes that the defendant won't have time to prepare a proper defense against the evidence that comes forward at
it has the case with Charles Vallow. It has every element of conspiracy easily apparent in nothing more than just the police body cam. If you watch police body cam, you can see everything that you need to see. She was there that morning. The situation was contrived with her brother spending the night at the house when he had never spent the night before. He just so happened to have a firearm, and yet he never brought the firearm before. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now because I'm getting angry. I'm sorry.
The last minute, this court has denied every motion the defense has filed to acquire this evidence. The state has claimed in their response to the defense's motion that the defense's request is overbroad and wide sweeping. Is this the defense left to pinpoint where this evidence is and try to find it? No, that is not the law. The state is required by law to give the defense evidence of the crime they are being charged with. This is the purpose of the Brady Law and the right to due process. This is why in 2020, the United States enacted the Due Process Protection Act that provides defendants like me with greater protection, Brady versus Maryland. The state has continued to impede the defense from conducting a defense. This is a violation of the 14th Amendment of our great Constitution and the defense's due process rights. Today, the defense is requesting that this court do the following three things. One, order the state to turn over all evidence of a conspiracy since our trial begins in 76 days from today. I would also ask that they would pare down their witness list to these witnesses that will actually be testifying so the defense can conduct productive interviews. And then I
Hey, Jude, you're amazing. Thank you for drawing attention to my mutedness, my mutism. All right. So what I was stopping everything for is this. Melissa is a well-respected member of our little community here, right? So, Melissa, you are good. You are fine. And if you want to talk about Soros all day long, I'm good. I can talk about Soros too. So we're good. So just, everything's fine. Nobody's going to fight with you, Melissa, because that's not, we're not going to do that. So people talk in the side chat in my channel about whatever they want to talk about. And I was talking about MK Ultra and the curious global nature of the CIA MK Ultra program. And I actually am of the opinion that Soros is probably head of the New World Order in some weird way. I may not have the lingo. I may not be saying it properly. So you're not starting anything, Melissa. You're fine. Everything's okay. I thought my earbud died. I'm sorry. No, Melissa Hart. I mute. Like if my dogs start barking or something like that, I'll mute it so y'all don't have to hear it while you're trying to listen to whatever the recording is, right? So, no, we're not being okay. I have no doubt. I've seen Melissa a lot. She is a well-grounded part of our community, and I honestly, there's just simply a statement against Soros is not an anti-Semitic statement against everyone. It's just not right. So I don't want to get into this. We're not going to get into this. Melissa is a part of our community, and she has never said anything that was inappropriate, and no one is going to. I myself believe that Soros and his son have done horrible things. And that's so I'm also, anyway, I'm not going to get down in this. Just don't talk about this again. Melissa, you're good. Say whatever you want to say, but for God's sake, don't start people going, oh, you're racist. Don't say that against me. We're not doing that. I'm not doing that in my channel. I'm just not. You too, Julie. All right.
I would like for all motions and responses to be sent directly to the defendant in a timely manner. I'm having a really hard time getting this stuff. I don't get it from ILS to 7 days after things have been filed, after your orders have been rendered. I'm not getting these. This defense intends on starting trial on time without delay, and I request that also that this defense requests that the court grant the motion to order the state to produce all discovery of extradition at this time so that we can get started on getting prepared for trial.
What does anything in the extradition have to do with the underlying charges? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, it's to find out why all this started when I can't find any evidence that there is.
Have you
So
read the grand jury transcripts?
I have.
Okay, the grand jury transcripts summarize what the state's evidence they intend to produce at trial.
That was epic. That was so epic. And you go, what, Jules? What do you mean that's epic? It's just the judge in a soft-spoken, understated manner. He says, did you read the grand jury information? Because that's what you're looking for, chick.
I understand that.
Oh, listen to the snark. Listen to this lady. Ooh, makes me so mad.
Jury transcripts?
I have.
Okay, the grand jury transcripts summarize what the state's evidence they intend to produce at trial.
I understand that.
So when you say you can't find anything, that is the summary in the grand jury transcripts.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess I don't understand how an extradition a year or so after the fact, after the indictments, would have anything to do with the underlying charges. So can you articulate that for me?
I can, Your Honor. There's the detectives that are on these cases are all continuing to go back and forth with all of these different agencies. You have the FBI, you have all the different agencies that are working together. You have Rexburg, Fremont County, you have Chandler and Gilbert. You have all these people. Then I have them coming up, and they're going to be on the stand, and they're going to be in trial, and they're going to be saying what they reviewed. They've reviewed all these things, and there's communications between all of these agencies that I feel like that the defense is privy to. We should be able to have that and look at that and see where all this came from, where all this started, why they waited 2 years to make these charges. There's all these things, and why they decided to extradite when I saw someone sent me a news article.
It's seriously easy. What's your name? Lori Vallow. It's really easy. The reason they waited 2 years is because they were busy prosecuting you and your creepy, weird husband for murder of 2 babies and a very decent man and a very decent woman. So that's why, because in a nutshell, the crimes that you committed, the level of abomination that is in your heart is so enormous that it took that long just to get to poor Charles and Boudreaux.
3 days before I got brought to Arizona, that MCAO was putting out a release that they were not going to pick me up and they were not going to extradite me to Arizona until after my appeals were finished. So it's contradictory to that. I just don't know where it came from. And there's a lot of things that are mystery questions.
Well, it came from a dead man, your husband, and a potentially almost dead man, where Tylee's Jeep was seen when Brandon Boudreaux was shot at. That's where it comes from. you're supposed to be this sophisticated, brilliant attorney. What? I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a trained attorney. I know where it came from. Silly.
Questions to the defense that we are entitled to according to the law.
All right, well, everything you've just told me, none of that would be relevant in the trial, in the case in chief. Does the state intend on producing any iota of evidence or presenting any scintilla of evidence of anything that happened after the dates of crime that have been charged in the indictments?
The state, although there is information that occurred after that will relate to the conspiracy that has been disclosed to the defense, anything that occurred after the indictment, during the extradition process is completely irrelevant and will not be brought in during the trial.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mean the date of crime listed in the indictment. I meant the date of the indictment. So the state doesn't plan on presenting any evidence to a jury of anything after the indictment.
Correct.
So how would that, anything to do with the extradition, be relevant to your trial then?
I feel like it's relevant to the whole, Your Honor, in the sense that the police investigation and the intent of the prosecution, it doesn't make sense. I would like to be able to have that.
All right. Are you otherwise on track for your trial date?
Correct.
Are there interviews going on with your investigator or your advisory council team?
We're working on getting those set up right now.
Okay. Is there anything?
So flashbacks to Jodi Arias, without a doubt, right? Like I think she is very, very similar to Jodi Arias with a few minor things. I think she's incredibly similar to Chris Watts. Yeah, I don't know. Not so much. Yeah, not Nicole Kessinger, not Chris Proudfoot. Oh, you know who else she's like? She's like O.J. Simpson. They're very similar in nature. I mean, he wrote a book, If I Did It. How much more hubris can you have than that? Like he felt like the whole world was stupid because they found him not guilty. And yet, he killed 2 people. But he was more concerned about that he's smarter than everyone than he was about the lives, the brutality, and the fear of the slaughter against these 2 people. So, yeah, but with Jodi Arias, yes, so similar in terms of manipulation sexually, using sex as a tool to manipulate men. I mean, there's the creepy. Well, I don't want to go into any more of it because I'm going to do a video on it. But yes, I think you're 100% right about Jodi.
Else we need to address today. This was sort of just a status conference to make
sure things Diane Downs is another one.
I have 2 motions that I'd like to file with the court today.
All right. Do you have copies for the state?
I don't today. I thought you could make a copy.
Can we see them?
Oh my God.
I'll ask the deputy county attorney, from your perspective, anything we need to discuss here today.
Yep. And the judge is not your clerk either, Lori.
No, Your Honor.
How long, I'm assuming the 2021 case would be the case that the state intends to try first?
Correct.
How long would that case take for the state's portion to present?
Probably a couple weeks, Your Honor. I mean, and I say that obviously I'm unaware of how long defense will take for cross-examination. So I would probably ask to pre-screen the jury for significantly longer than that.
You know who else she reminds me of? Right, DB? It's like, oh, well, you could just make them. Yeah, like that's her personal secretary. She is full of herself. She is feeling like she is hot something. she's deep in her narcissistic supply by being in this role of attorney. Like, this is going to go off the rails, y'all. This is going to get bad. What I was going to say to answer your question, someone else, I agree with the whole Diane Downs. I think that is highly accurate. You know who else? Her personality, her behavior, she's an awful lot like Darlie Routier. Is that how you pronounce it? Routier? Yeah, Routier from Dallas. She is very similar to Darlie Routier, a woman who killed her kids. The over the top giggle, laughter, jumping around. Yeah, it's all about attention, attention, attention. What about me? What about me? What about me?
Meaning 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
Yes, Your Honor. I obviously, I do not know what Ms. Daybell is going to question any of the witnesses.
Call her Vallow.
As we're looking toward that trial date, is advisory council willing to assist the defendant on the jury screening process if we do the electronic questionnaire?
Yeah, to the
Okay.
extent that we
All right, good.
going outside of our scope, but yes.
Sure. I have received a motion for specific discovery from the defendant, well, 2 separate ones. Just going forward, can you title them maybe what specifically you're looking for? Because if you name all your motions the same thing, it gets a little difficult to keep track of them. But I have 2 separate motions for specific discovery.
Just like discovery 911 call.
For example, on this one, you could title it something like motion for discovery related to the Gilbert DR number or something like that, just to differentiate these. We'll make copies of these for the prosecutor, and then we'll have those filed with the clerk today. One of your requests was to have the state send you directly any pleadings, which according to their mailing certificate at the back of the pleadings, they are mailing them to you. I can't do anything about how long the jail takes to process that. So I do recognize that there's probably some delays on that, so we won't hold you to the normal reply times because of those delays that it takes getting through the jail administratively. All right.
In that case, Your Honor, could we have perhaps that go to my investigator, then I could maybe get those faster? Can he also be included on that?
Your Honor, I do email them to advisory council as well as in the court, so.
Boom.
But there's not much else I can do.
Who's your investigator?
Jeff White.
And your advisory counselor in contact with him? Yeah.
They can be.
Okay.
See, it's just nonsense. She's just playing games. She probably thinks at some point of appeal or something.
So the record will reflect that the state's getting a copy of those 2 motions today, and then the state will respond accordingly. I'll just set a I'll have you reply within 10 days of the date of the filing of their response. All right. Depending on and then I'll rule on the motions as they come, or I'll set a hearing if need be. But at this time, I'm going to affirm the final trial management conference of March 18 at 8:30 a.m. in this division. Trial date's currently March 31. Again, the first case that would be heading to trial would be the 2021 case. Anything else for today?
Yes. Will trial be staying before Your Honor? And if so, will we be staying in this courtroom?
I don't know yet. I'm going to confer with the associate presiding judge, and I suspect it will stay here and it will stay in this courtroom, although for jury selection, we may move to a bigger courtroom if we're doing in-person voir dire.
And Judge, I do know there will likely be the next of kin present. This courtroom obviously does not have a victim room or a witness room. with the media, that obviously makes it more difficult for the state to keep those individuals away from each other, from overhearing each other in this type of case. So obviously, we're happy to stay before this court, but would be requesting that it be reset or moved to the South Court Tower, so we would have those accommodations.
I'll talk to the criminal presiding judge and the associate presiding judge regarding that. And it's just a matter of availability of bigger courtrooms. Anything else from the defendant?
I just was going to ask, can we set both trial dates, or how are we going to do that?
You'll have two separate jury trials with two separate juries.
Correct.
So the first trial that will be on or around March 31st. We anticipate when that trial's done, we'll talk about how quickly we're going to do the second trial. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yes.
Oh my God.
It's hard to set the second one without
This
knowing how long the
woman.
first one's going to take, and then the readiness of everyone as far as the second one after the first one concludes. All right, we will be at recess on that matter. I'll take any motions under advisement.
What's going on? What's the real deal, Lori Vallow? All right. So the question is, what is she really up to? She seems to be. Okay, sorry about that. The question is, what is she really up to? I get the feeling perhaps the problem is that she doesn't want to be in Arizona, that she's pushing to get all this over with so she can get back up to Idaho. The only thing I can figure is maybe Chad's porcelain portal doesn't work very well in the desert heat. Maybe they can connect more easily in the toilet if they're, in a more humid, environment. Maybe the porcelain portal, maybe it needs like moisture in the air for the electrical connection to happen or something like that, right? She can't face the fact that she murdered her children. She outright denies it, Melissa, right? Like she acts like it was somehow like meant to be, that it was an act of God, that the kids are now in heaven and they're so happy in heaven. She has a great capacity to ignore or just outright deny reality. And it's the problem with this is that there's going to be some very, very, very good people who are going to be damaged yet again by her insanity. I hear a lot of people, like on YouTube and such, everybody wants to say, oh, that's narcissism. You shouldn't talk bad about people with narcissism. These different people have different outlooks, and everybody seems to be ignoring the one truth, and that is that personality disorders should not be minimized, nor should they be pushed aside. Not everyone with a personality disorder is dealing with an extreme set of symptoms and impact. There's a lot of people that satisfy the diagnostic criteria for a particular personality disorder, but they're actually experiencing relatively mild symptoms, correct? The truth of the matter is, when someone has personality disorder that is profound, that is very, very, very the symptoms are very powerful and are disrupting many areas of their life, these people have the capacity to harm others. It doesn't mean that everyone diagnosed with personality disorder is dangerous, not by a long shot, not even close. But don't be so quick to dismiss a personality disorder, because plenty of people have used their excuse of personality disorder to overlook their own bad behavior, right? So in Lori's case, I have said before, not talking about an individual person, but talking about the circumstances of a person with narcissistic personality disorder getting emotionally involved with a person who has dependent personality disorder. That combination, that is what gets you a story on the 6 o'clock news. It's such a volatile combination. Someone who's very needy, someone who is willing to do anything to feel safe and get the commitment of this other person. And yet the other person is highly narcissistic, and they are voracious in their need for attention, to be treated as if they're significant. That dependent personality disorder sort of feeds the beast, right? That in the beginning, it seems like, oh, look, we're soulmates. This is a match made in heaven. But after the person with dependent personality disorder feeds that narcissistic hunger, feeds it, eventually that person with a toxic level of narcissistic personality disorder, they can become monstrous in their ever-growing hunger for attention. One of the big problems that people with narcissistic personality disorder will encounter eventually, if they're in a relationship with a dependent personality, they will reach a point. Remember, with somebody that's got narcissistic personality disorder, at the heart of their identity, they do not feel worthy, correct? So internally, they're aware, they believe that they don't measure up, that maybe they're not smart enough, or maybe they're not beautiful or handsome enough. Maybe they're not accomplished enough. Maybe they don't have enough skills. Maybe they're not funny enough. So they have this awareness that they're lacking and other people are better than they are. And that is such an intolerable experience. It's so deeply painful to them that they will then sort of develop this outward presentation that is designed to say, hey, I'm actually as good as you are. Oh, no, wait, I'm better than you. And so they develop an external presentation, a facade, or they call it a mask. They develop this outward facade where they are presenting like someone who's very, 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 very strong, on exactly the same point that internally they feel like they do not measure up. And so the worst possible thing that can happen to them is for someone to rip that mask off and say, see, this is not a really smart person. This is not a really kind person. This is not a really, accomplished person. Just look at what's behind this mask. They're actually like a frightened little boy. And the people that are dealing with true narcissistic personality disorder, the one overriding feature that drives them day to day is the protection of their mask, not to allow another person unveil them. Because if you are unveiled, if the weaknesses that you hold within become apparent to others, then basically you die from the perspective of the person with narcissistic personality disorder. So a narcissistic personality, they will become even violent, even if they've never been violent before, if they are suddenly encountered, let's say with an angry wife or an angry husband who says, hey, I'm going to divorce you and I'm going to make sure the whole wide world knows what you did to me or what kind of person you are, they may very well act out in a panic and accidentally kill the person. So personality disorders should not just be brushed away. You can absolutely, find a good therapist, good psychologist, work with them to reduce the impact of these symptoms that are related to the personality disorder. You don't have to live with all this turmoil and fear and emotional pinball machine, right? You don't have to live that way, but it does take commitment, and it does take regular contact and being committed to changing some of your behaviors. That's critical, because as an example, this idea that, like Sarah Boone, this example that you would have to admit that, yeah, I have wasted my life. I am an alcoholic. I'm smart, but I didn't do anything with my natural ability because I was drinking and partying, and I just never got it together. Instead of admitting that to herself, she jumps through all kinds of hoops to convince the detectives that she is an exceptional human being that would never do anything so dumb as putting her boyfriend in a suitcase. And yet she did put him in a suitcase. So, someone like that's dealing with that increased, heightened level of symptoms of personality problems, if they're willing to devote the time and do the work, they can get to a place in life where life is easier. Most people would have the ability to say, oh my God, I don't know how I could be so stupid. How did I let this happen? That's a normal reaction from someone with an intact personality. You say, oh my gosh, I made a mess. Oh, I am so sorry. That's a normal reaction to having done something that was accidental or foolish or even just a miscalculation. But to say, how dare you? I would never put my boyfriend in a suitcase. Well, you did. What do you mean you would never? Yeah, but I left it unzipped. No, you didn't, because he's dead. So it's very difficult to live life with one of these, certain not all personality disorders, but some. And, I think that this combination that we see between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, I always say that's the combination that you end up with a 6 o'clock news story. That is that voracious, hungry, narcissistic PD that is being fed by the dependent personality until they become a monster. And so with this awareness that somehow they're aware that they don't measure up. Internally, they are aware that they're hiding the person they are, the person that they think others would reject. They're hiding that. And so when they get into one of these relationships with someone who has dependent personality disorder, eventually they'll look at that person and they'll say, wow, what's wrong with you? How are you so screwed up that you would be in a relationship with me? Because I'm not great. I'm not wonderful. I would be rejected by most people. And yet my wife or my husband, they profess to worship the ground I walk on. They allow me to beat them, or they allow me to call them names, and they never fight back. All they do is they try to make things good, and they try to fix things to make our relationship better. So what is wrong with them? And because they have this awareness that the person that they're with is worshiping them, even though they recognize themselves that they are flawed and they are unworthy, then they hate the very person that is giving them narcissistic supply. They hate them. They say, there's something wrong with you that you would be in a relationship with me. And that is where then the violence begins. That's the cycle of domestic violence. And when you're listening to it, when you've got somebody sitting there telling you these things, it will just blow your mind, because you're thinking, but wait a minute, you're saying that, you know, you hate this person that you're mistreating so badly. You want them to leave because they're making you feel bad that you're flawed, you're hiding it from them, but they continue to love you. And that is creating an intense anger and hate inside of you. And then when they do finally get away, when the dependent personality finally goes, says, okay, I give up, I don't want this anymore, they get out of the picture, then what does the narcissist do? They say, oh my God, wait a minute, this isn't what I really wanted. They must be a wonderful person because they realize I'm bad and now they've abandoned me and I can't take that. And so then they start hoovering to suck you back into the madness. It is a dangerous combination between narcissistic personality disorder, similar to the behavior of Lori Vallow, being with someone like Chad Daybell with his behaviors that seem to suggest dependent personality disorder. It's very, very worrisome. Alex and Lori were physical with one another. It was even condoned by the parents. Yeah, no, I get it, Sunset. I think Dad, Alex and Lori's father, there's some very curious things. I'm not going to say any more than that, but somebody should be doing an investigation into the whole family, in my opinion. I think with not that it doesn't relieve Lori and Alex from culpability. They are ultimately responsible for their behavior, but just to safeguard any children, you know, in the family or in any future contact, that there needs to be an investigation into the family. I believe that. So thank you, Ginger. How are you? It was Sunset. Yes, it was promoted in the family. Yeah, normalized, right? Highly inappropriate physical touch normalized within the family. But listen, let me remind you. Lori's mother, we've seen her, we know, you know, she would have her plate of food. This was with the family there, like everybody's sitting in the long family table, right? She's sitting at one end, husband's sitting at the other end. She would have normal food on her plate. And as she's eating and talking with the family, everybody's sitting around eating, she takes a bite of food. She would chew it up. And rather than swallowing it, she would put it back on her fork and place it back on her plate. So she would actually sit and eat a whole meal with people watching her, and she would never swallow her food because she needed to be thin and beautiful. I mean, there's some sincere trouble. There's some sincere trouble. There's some strange oddities in the family. Yeah, very bizarre, very unusual. Such an extreme behavior, correct? And what's really, I mean, that is notable. It's a very odd behavior all by itself. But to me, what makes it particularly disturbing is that it was being done in public with all of the family watching, including the kids, the young cousins that would come over to play. That's how the story first got out, is the cousin was describing what Lori's mother would do when she would eat or not. Well, technically, I guess not eat, right? Is Lori acting as her own attorney? Did I hear that? Ginger, you absolutely heard that accurately. And it is terrible. It's devastating. My one sole concern is Colby Ryan. And this is going to be quite painful for him, in my opinion, because Lori doesn't have any idea that she's in the wrong. We are all in shock. Like, we're watching this and we're thinking she is this cold and cruel, callous person, that she would do this to JJ and Tylee and Charles, that she would do this to these very good, valuable, loved, valued people. And that by acting as her own attorney, she's thumbing her nose at all of those that love JJ and Tylee. She's thumbing her nose at all of those that loved Mrs. Daybell, the real Mrs. Daybell, not idiot Lori. I swear, if I was law enforcement, I would not allow her to go by the name Daybell. Because the only way that she became Daybell was by killing the true Mrs. Daybell. It's all so confusing and it's so offensive. But that's the effect when you're dealing with someone who is experiencing a profound level of disruption in their symptoms of personality disorder. It is not for the faint of heart. It's difficult. Lori Redrum, her third husband, Joseph Ryan, too, was not caught. I believe it, Funduski. When you read the court docket, the investigation, right, how he died and whatnot, she totally crawled in that window. And I think she done him in the same way that she did everybody else. Some weird chemical drug of some sort. Yeah. Oh, she is eat up with delusions of grandeur. She is eat up with religious delusions. She is eat up with delusions of reference. I even think there's probably a little bit of, hallucinations, or she's just a liar and she knows what she's doing and she uses her religion to try to excuse herself, Yeah, well, I don't know her, Daisy. I haven't done an evaluation on her. Nothing. I've never seen even where she's taken an MMPI, or I haven't seen any of that. I would say that her history, the behaviors that we've seen on recordings when she's been in the courtroom, the way that Colby has described her both now and then historically when she was younger, all of those different things would seem to suggest there's a possibility that she has narcissistic personality disorder and other PDs. I believe there's probably a level of histrionics. I think she may be bipolar. And if that's the case, that might explain some of the hallucinations, some of the psychosis that she seems to have demonstrated at times. And same thing is true of Chad Daybell. don't know him, never did an evaluation of him, don't have any specialized knowledge of him that anybody else wouldn't have, but just his outward presentation, the way he's been described, what we've seen on police body cam, see him in the courtroom, all of that aggregate, he seems like there's some dependent personality. Maybe even narcissism for Chad as well. But for sure, the dependent personality disorder is there. Chris Watts' dependent personality is there. A lot of people tried to say that Chris Watts had narcissistic personality disorder. I don't see that, not at all. Chris Watts does not give the appearance of one who would be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. In fact, his own words, he describes just wanting to be invisible. He describes not wanting to be noticed, standing in the back, sitting in the back. He didn't want anyone to notice him. So he didn't brag about special skills or abilities that he had. He actually was quite accomplished with mechanic work. He was educated. He could have been a mechanic for NASCAR. He zoomed up his own Mustang. He did seem to have a knack for mechanics and working with cars, and yet he easily was led to Colorado to take a job with the oil and gas industry, even though he had never worked in the oil and gas industry. That is dependent personality disorder. He's just going to do whatever it is that would make Shanann happy. That's it. But with Christopher Watts, I believe he's primary psychopath. I believe that there is actually there's a defect in his limbic system that he does not experience emotion. There is no corrective feedback that you and I have. So I think he's a true psychopath. But listen, there are many, many people that are primary psychopaths and they never hurt other people. Never. They usually end up with some kind of diagnosis like schizoaffective disorder, schizoid personality disorder. They just sort of stay away from people. They're happy. They enjoy their time when they're alone. They got hobbies like video games and things like that they love to do. And they don't ever hurt anybody. They just do their job. They go to work. They do their job. They come home, play their video games, right? They don't have, just because someone doesn't get that corrective feedback from the limbic system doesn't mean that they're violent. I mean, you think about it, violence, you're actually deep in emotion, right? Usually. The thing that makes primary psychopaths the most frightening is that they're kind of like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, if let's say I'm trying to make a video and my little dog starts barking and she's got one of these shrill, high voices. It like hurts your ears, right? And she's got dementia because she's old. And so sometimes she'll just stand there and bark for no reason. And you can't make her stop. She will not stop, right? And so I've learned that if I go get a saltine cracker and I put some butter on the saltine cracker, for some reason, that is very relaxing to her. So she'll eat her saltine cracker with the butter, and then she will lay down and stop barking. And I don't know if it's the carbs. I'm not sure what causes it, but it definitely causes her to pull back and feel calmed by whatever it is that's making her bark. So it's a lot of trouble to have to stop what I'm trying to do, go all the way into the kitchen, get the crackers out of the pantry, spread some butter on it, and give it to her, and then clean everything back up, and then go back to what I was doing. It's a problem, right? So I do it because I love her, and she is a little old lady, and I've had her since she was just, newborn pup. And so I look at, it's like I have the sensation that I'm helping her. Like I feel sad for her because she is so old, and physically she's really breaking down. Mentally, half the time she doesn't even know where she is. And so I have love for her, and I'm trying to help her, trying to calm her and help her feel good, right? But if I'm a psychopath and I don't have that sensation of empathy and love, that this is an aging dog and maybe she's barking because she's in physical pain. If I'm a psychopath and I don't have that emotional corrective loop, then I may just kick her and just say, shut up, right? I may not, I might not calculate these factors. Well, she's old, she may be in pain. I wouldn't do that. I just would have that intention in my mind. I need to do my work. I need the dog to be quiet. So let me kick her in her face and make her be quiet. That's the difference between a primary psychopath who's just trying to get a goal met. I need her to be quiet. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make her be quiet. As opposed to someone who has empathy, who goes, oh my God, she's so loud. That hurts my ears. And I feel very sorry for her. I feel very sad for her. Let me go make her a cracker. And after she eats her buttered cracker, then she will lay down and go to sleep. She'll be at peace. And so that motivates me to an act of kindness, right? So, but it doesn't mean that a psychopath is a slasher killer. It just means that they generally don't really interact much with other people, that they don't really care much about interacting with people. They have the things that they enjoy, and as long as they have access to the things that they enjoy, they don't really care about anything else. So a sociopath, on the other hand, that's a whole different ball game. I would much rather deal with someone that I knew was a primary psychopath than to deal with a sociopath. Because sociopaths, they like it when they hurt you. It's fun. All right. Okay, folks, today we got this video out. I am going to be back later on. We are going to do a video on Sebastian Rogers, the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. And so we'll be doing that later on tonight. But I did want to get this one in because I was just incensed that Lori Vallow presented herself as this cute little ditzy, flirty, belle of the ball, blonde. And that I don't want anybody to forget she is a monster. And if she's presenting as this cutesy, fun little, chick, she's just doing it to manipulate you. That's it. For no other reason. She's being manipulative. It is neither cute nor amusing that Lori Vallow is representing herself in a court of law. It is one thing, and that is bad. It is bad for Colby Ryan. It is bad for Colby's family. It is bad for Crescia and Larry and Kay. It is bad that Lori is being allowed to represent herself to manipulate the system. It is bad because there are still people that absolutely love and adore JJ, Tylee, Charles, that it's bad that they are going to once again be victimized by this real life monster. So please don't watch her and be impressed by her level of legal knowledge. Please don't do that. Don't watch her and be, oh, laugh. Oh, look how silly and fun she is. Look how cute she is getting her glasses. Please don't do that. Never forget, this woman very likely put a plastic bag over the head of her little boy and waited there watching him thrash about until he finally died. That is not cute. That is not flirty. That is not innocent or sweet. It's a monster. She is Colby's monster. All right. Let's see. So I will be back later on today, and I will be putting up the live as soon as I make a determination on the time. It's going to be tonight. I know that for sure. So yeah, please do the YouTube thing and hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up. I would love it if you would leave a comment underneath the video telling me how deep do you want to follow Lori Vallow in her Arizona case. I don't think I want to hang on her every word, but I probably will do like individual videos talking about certain things that I see in the courtroom. So if you have an opinion on how deep you want to go, please, leave a comment and tell me. Again, I don't post regularly because I work a full-time job outside of YouTube. So if you will hit the subscribe button, then you'll get a notification. You'll know that I've put something new up. And for everyone else, thank you so much for being here. I sure do love you guys. Uh-oh, what happened? No, we had a defect. Oh, I know what happened.
Watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight.
You guys have a fine Saturday afternoon, all right?
Stories unfold, true crime jewels. She's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True crime jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. We're always watching Barry, discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family.